Today we will use gel electrophoresis to analyze DNA to help solve a local crime. To provide some background information, yesterday morning Grace Ford was pulling up to Mrs. Jones' house to do her regular weekly cleaning when she saw a man rushing out of the door and driving away in his car. Grace Ford called Mrs. Jones to see if someone was also doing work at her house this morning, but it seemed unusual that Mrs. Jones did not tell her in advance. Mrs. Jones said that she did not hire anyone else and that she would be home as soon as possible. Mrs. Jones came home and called the police in a panic because her house was torn apart and all of her valuable items were missing. The forensics team searched through Mrs. Jones' entire house and was able to find a single hair by her jewelry box. The four suspects we have for this robbery include John Jones, who is Mrs. Jones' son, Bradley Jones, who is Mrs. Jones' grandson, Grace Ford, who is the witness and has been Mrs. Jones' cleaning lady for several years, and Rob Turner, who is an electrician that fixed Mrs. Jones' TV 3 days ago. Forensic scientists collected DNA samples from the four suspects of the crime and used gel electrophoresis so we can compare the DNA of the suspects to the hair we found left at the scene. This analysis will use two different variable number tandem repeat loci to figure out who the culprit is. Variable number tandem repeats, also known as VNTRs, are important because they produce specific sequences of bands that are unique to each individual, which helps us determine who is guilty and who is innocent. It is important to understand that since the DNA is unique to each individual, the suspects have to match exactly at both loci. Now let's look at this evidence and solve the crime. Looking at just VNTR locus 1, we can see that the evidence DNA matches with both Rob Turner and Bradley Jones. We also see that one of John Jones' alleles matches the evidence DNA, but John Jones' DNA does not exactly match the evidence DNA, which means he is not the culprit. The alleles of Grace Ford and Mrs. Jones do not match the evidence DNA at all, meaning we can rule them out of being the perpetrator as well. So from VNTR locus 1, we see that our two possible suspects are Rob Turner and Bradley Jones. Now looking at VNTR locus 2, we see that the evidence DNA matches Grace Ford and Bradley Jones. However, since Grace Ford did not match the evidence DNA at the first locus, she cannot be a legitimate suspect even though she matches at the second locus. Just like with VNTR locus 1, one of John Jones' alleles matches the evidence DNA, but since he did not match exactly at locus 1, he is not a legitimate suspect still. We can see that Mrs. Jones, Rob Turner, and John Jones do not match the evidence DNA at VNTR locus 2. Rob Turner's alleles match the evidence DNA exactly at the first locus, but at locus 2 his alleles do not match the evidence alleles, which means he is no longer a primary suspect. This leads us to Bradley Jones, whose alleles perfectly match the DNA evidence at both loci, so we can conclude that he is the culprit and guilty of this robbery. One thing to note is how at both loci, Mrs. Jones and John Jones both have one matched allele, and how John Jones and Bradley Jones also have one matched allele. This is because Mrs. Jones is the mother of John Jones, meaning she passes one of her alleles to John and he gets the other from his father, who is not included in this investigation. John Jones is also the father of Bradley Jones, so Bradley inherits one allele from his father and one from his mother, who is also not included as a suspect.